want to start, if this isn't too embarrassing, by letting you know that when we had Jason Segel on this stage recently, he said that the genius of your casting was that with this season 2, any of the main characters could have their own show, and you obviously chose them for season 1. So I want to sort of step back a little bit and talk about what it's like when you're casting a pilot, bearing in mind that this is possible. The way we've seen these characters, some of these characters develop in season 2 from season 1, like you must have known that when you, or had this in mind when you were casting the pilot.
I don't know that we did completely have it all in mind. I mean, you could correct me on any of this.
Go ahead.
But I think that so much of casting is a little bit of magic and alchemy. And, we've worked with Bill Lawrence for so long. And one of the things that Bill does so well in putting casts together is he takes a lot of time kind of getting to know the potential people that he's putting in his cast. Because he has this no asshole policy, effectively, and he doesn't want with everybody. But I think we got so lucky with this cast, and of course, it speaks to all of their skills and their talent, and it's so much a testament to them. I mean, I would love to say like we're wizards, and but we can only do what we can do with great material, and Shrinking was excellent material. We were very lucky to have Jason attached. We were very unbelievably blessed to have Harrison Ford come in when he came in the process, and so yeah, I mean, I like to think like we do our work and we work hard, but sometimes it's just a little bit of magic, and I think this show in particular was that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that especially because we had to cast it on Zoom, and that's not why any of us got in the business. We got in the business to sit in a room with all of you and collaborate, and seeing the self-tapes come in from, for example, Lukita and Luke, and just seeing how they were owning it. They really made it their own in a way that stood out. And, of course, we went through the process. We had a few people that, we tested and ended up where we ended up, and we happened to end up in the right place. I mean, it was great. And we of course, had opinions and pushed for things, but this was a group that was large, lots of cooks in the kitchen, and everybody has different taste. So it's about listening and learning why people want someone specifically and why they feel so strongly, and then maybe checking your ego of why you think someone's so right that somebody doesn't.
Yeah.
So can you share any examples? You say you've worked with Bill before of what it was like when you present your choices to Bill and Brett and Jason and whoever the other stakeholders are. What sort of conversations were you having with them before and during the process? And was there a time where you felt like you really had to defend a choice? Yeah, sorry, too many questions at once. I'm just wondering what the feedback is like or the conversation is like with Bill and Brett and Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're open to hearing our thoughts. We put together lists. We try to explain why, for example, with the role of Gabby, we put together a lengthy list, and they were people that we could read or they could meet with. People had, a body of work at that point. And they narrowed it down to 3 choices that they wanted to meet with. And the amazing Jessica Williams won the role in the room. And it was interesting because the other 2 actresses who met before Jessica. And after they would finish one, they'd be like, oh, it's going to be her. She's great. And so everyone, made a great impression. But the person who gets the role, it doesn't always negate the fact that somebody else made a huge impression, gave a great reading, whatever that is. Like, everybody has something to offer. And I think that this is a group, especially because Jason's an actor as well as a writer and producer, and Brett Goldstein is the same, and Bill has done this for so long, that they all see the different facets of people, and that's a lovely thing, a respectful thing.
Yeah.
I think, it's been said many times that this is absolutely extraordinary work from Harrison Ford, that he is so vulnerable and so honest on screen, that maybe we're seeing a side of him we haven't seen before, which is really exciting and entertaining, amazing to watch. So I think it must have been a huge responsibility to cast the role opposite him, the love interest that Wendy Malick plays. So can you give us an idea of what that audition process looked like when looking for, Harrison's potential partner?
Yeah, I mean, we had put a list together, and Wendy was at the top of that list. We also knew they had worked with Wendy before, Doozer had. But Apple and some of the producers wanted to see first if they could get bigger names, people that perhaps Harrison Ford had worked with before, or somebody that they could get. And so we started to explore some of those possibilities. But for one reason or another, those few women, and it was just a few, weren't available. So they were like, let's just go with Wendy. And my God, we were so lucky. I mean, Wendy is such an incredible actress just at the starting gate, but she is also one of the most loveliest people ever. So she's just cool and like poised and beautiful and game for anything. Again, it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning about alchemy and luck and all of those kind of things. And I think that's so much what it is. And they, meaning she and Harrison, have such incredible chemistry together. And they just adore each other, which I think all comes through. So that was an example of like right person, all of it, just right.
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody better than her. And it sort of what you were saying reminds me, we were talking a little bit earlier about this idea that wherever you are, whether or not you're a co-star, you're a guest star, or you're a leading lady like Wendy Malick, there is always someone who's better known than you or who has more credits than you, who's in contention or auditioning for the role. Can you give us any idea of sort of where priorities lie or how that plays into the alchemy of auditioning?
Okay, I'm gonna. I think I have the thread. I think I have the thread of this, and if I go off, just correct me or someone just jump in. But yes, look, there always can be someone who's better. Like we just explained it, like talked about the Wendy Malick situation of going to look for something else. Before Harrison Ford was signed on, we had a list of actors who we were talking about, one pretty seriously of a known television actor, but until, and Harrison was on our list from the beginning, because the different thing with Apple was you could write a name like Harrison Ford down and not be laughed at when you could write it and it could be a reality. And you could also call the agent and say, hey, we have this show. I mean, Debbie and I have worked on shows that we've been working on them for years, and we'll call to check someone's avail, and the agent will say, is this a pilot? And we'll say, no, it's on its 7th year. So to have a show like this, which already had like Jason attached to it and Bill, and so it was getting really great buzz. So yes, there is always somebody who may have more experience or something. What we were fortunate about, and again, this speaks to Doozer, is they are open to people for these smaller things. Like they want to populate a world. All of the patients in the show, like Kimberly Condit and Mike Nelson, and these were all people that we set out to find. Now, what we don't know is how they're going to develop these people and how much they're going to have them be on. At first, they say, oh, we're going to have them around the world. But what they do is they start to watch who's popping, how they're popping, what they can bring back, and how they can use that. So if there's a lesson here, I don't know if I'm even following where you started with this, but I feel like I'm so far in the trench right now, like desperately trying to find my way back out. But I think what it says is all of it is, for many things, actors, unfortunately, you guys are so much of a deficit, so much of a time of not knowing, I sent my audition in, was it even seen? We hear that before. Did it even get seen? And why didn't I get the role? I thought I nailed it. I had my agent call for feedback and they said it was great. And yes, you could have nailed it. But there are always these factors that go into a final decision that's many times out of our hands if we send things over. Like a prime example of this is, the role that Brett Goldstein played on the show in season 2 wasn't originally supposed to be Brett Goldstein. We had a whole breakdown put out. It was supposed to be a 25 to 28-year-old man who was just getting started in his life and he was in this accident that killed Tia. And so destroyed his life. We had actors. We went through auditions. We had incredible people come through. Like, this is when our job was so amazing because we would sit there and be like, oh my God, this person's coming in, because we said we really want people to read. And people read, and everyone put themselves on tape. And it was so exciting to watch. And we were passionate about people and everything our job is supposed to be. And producers had some people that they wanted. And then we got a call that said, Brett really wants to play the role and really wants to have this stuff with Jason. And so that's a prime example of, like, there were 8 to 10 really qualified actors who gave amazing, beautiful performances that didn't get the part because of this strange thing of the executive producer, who's also in Doozer, who's also on Ted Lasso, who's also a big, now a big star, wanted to do the role. And that's his right as a producer on the show. So that's the kind of stuff that people don't always know and people don't always understand, and for you guys. And so that's what the frustrating part is. But you have to believe that if your work is good and you believe it's good and know it's good, that's one thing. And the other thing I'll just say, and again, I think I've been so far off this question, whatever it was, is, for any casting office that you're going in for, I'll just say this. If you continue to get called in, that's all you need to know, because that means that casting office believes in you. It just means you may not have hit it yet, but we know that, and we want to find something for you. So if you get called in again, and it might be 2 years before you get called in, which has nothing to do with your talent and that we just don't have anything for you. But if you have offices that do call you in, trust in yourself. You're doing the right thing. It's just that for whatever reason, your number didn't come up yet. And that's it. Was that anywhere in there?
That's a great note. That was awesome. Okay, absolutely awesome. I want to talk to you a little bit about the tone of this show. I think it's really interesting because the drama is so sensitive, but it never compromises the comedy, and the comedy never compromises the drama. So that feels like a tricky tone to step into. So can you talk about if somebody's auditioning, like at what stage do you jump in with notes or adjustments, and what might they be with regard to tone?
I think it really depends, if it's, let's say it's a self-tape situation. If something comes in and someone it's like 90% there, but something is missing, and, you guys aren't getting a script, and, sometimes you're not getting, it's such a new character with maybe other new characters. You really have no way to figure out more information to inform your choices. I think that we will try to give a note and have you retape so that you can put your best foot forward. And then there are other times where people just nail it. And then there are other times where people aren't right for the role, and we learn that. And that's what casting is. It's, trying to find the right fit. And there are so many actors that we love that are, right for certain things and not right for others. And so we try and we learn, and then it sort of helps to inform the next role that we call somebody in for. It's really hard what you guys do, and you just have to keep doing it and believing in yourself and really owning it and bringing your flavor to it. And I think that's the most important thing. And that's what has pretty much always stood out to us, is someone who comes in and does something a little different than how we saw it is super exciting to us.
so much to unpack there, but I want to start with the process with this show in particular. Like, how many stages, like for like the construction workers, for instance?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? Let's go deep,
yes.
right? So is that like they send a tape, you choose someone? Like what does the process look like for the different roles?
Yeah, I mean, if it's something like the construction workers, yes, it's exactly that. Like we'll put out a breakdown, and then we'll get however hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people submitted, and we'll pick usually 25 to 30 to start. And from there, we'll choose between 6 and 8 people to send over to them. And if they see more, if they need to see more, they don't like what they've seen, then we'll go back and choose more. If it's a larger role, like a recurring role, yes.
Pause on that for 1 second.
2 seconds if you'd like.
And the other thing is, for example, with the construction workers, you don't want them to all look alike. Yeah. And so you have to make your choices so that each one of them has their moment to stand out.
Yeah.
So that goes into who we pick.
Yeah. If it's a guest star, a larger role, certainly it's a lot more. And, we might see 50 to 60 people to start. And we'll send a few more. We'll send up to 10 sometimes. And again, it's a spectrum on a kind of theme, which is what we try to do. So not everyone looks the same. Not everybody, it's within the parameters of what they want, but sometimes we'll try to go a little, stretch. If somebody has something, we're like, we have to send this over just to see if they react or how they're going to react. So that's usually how we approach that. It's been very rare that we have had callbacks on a guest star. I think
we did though.
With Rachel, we certainly, that role we cast and then had to recast it.
Yes, but sorry, what I was going to say is, so we had to populate Gabby's family last season. Okay. So we had to cast her sister, Courtney, and Courtney Taylor got that role, and we had to cast her mother, and Vernay got that role. And I think that what was so spectacular about that process was Jessica was so game to do chemistry reads with people. She wanted to make sure that was right. And so for the role of Courtney that Courtney got, we had pre-reads in person. It was great. It was like the olden times. And like, here comes the horse and buggy pulling up to Warner Brothers. And so we went through the pre-read process in person as well as getting some self-tapes. But Courtney came in for that. So that Courtney Taylor. So that was very exciting. And I had seen her on Insecure and was like, she played Issa's assistant. And I was like, who is this person? She is a force. And we were so thrilled that she even was open to, like an offer, not to mention coming in to read. And it was like the beginning of people reading again in person. So everyone was a little nervous. It was kind of interesting. We were a little nervous. Yeah. And then she came back for the chemistry reads with Jessica, and it just was like clear. And then with Vernay, Jessica was on vacation and took time out of her vacation to Zoom chem read with the actors. And that just went so far to us to show her investment. So
yeah.
She's incredible. So I love that you're watching other shows and people are sticking out to you and you're holding on to them for the future. That's like amazing. I want to talk a little bit about how you think about or find people for comedies. Obviously watching other shows. Do you watch, when people are putting their comedy reels on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, are you also looking at, or are people from your office showing you clips that they appreciate of people that they've seen in those spaces?
I think it's all of that. First of all, our office is so great. We have such a wonderful associate, Daniel Schwab, and this incredible assistant, Shannon Corey, and the four of us work incredibly well together. And one of the things that's really cool is just the age differential. So we're coming at things because we old. So we're coming at things from very different perspectives, which is really kind of interesting. We generally, a lot of us watch different things. So we talk about different shows. We talk about different actors. We're also like the Doozer camp has their own people that are exploring and finding specifically a lot of comedy people. So we're just starting a new project now, and they've sent us over, these are really interesting people that might be worth checking out, which is incredible. And then the rest of it just kind of falls. Like you talked about, like I'm someone who does go into YouTube and Instagram just because I'm in those spaces a lot and see people. And I also pilfer. I was gonna say I pick my daughter's brain, who's 18, and she's in a whole different plane. But again, she's so keyed into those, young comics. A lot of them are influencers who might be, breaking into the acting side of things. So yeah, I think we all come at it from different directions and pull from different things and just share with each other as much as we can.
Yeah, I think that's right. I love TV and I watch way too much of it. And I love comedies. I also really love the dark dramas. And I love to see someone who I've only seen do a drama come into a situation for a comedy and show me another side. Huh? Oh, yeah, that's a really good example. So we did a pilot a bunch of years ago, right before COVID. And Shanola Hampton had been on Shameless. And this was based on the Kevin Hart movie, Night School. Thank you. I was going to say Old School. And there was just something about her performance in Shameless, this energy that she had, that we were like, oh my God, you guys, we have to wait for Shanola to come in. I know you haven't seen it yet. I know you don't know that she can do this because it was a multicam, but she came in, she worked with us first, which was so nice of her to do so that we could just make sure every I was dotted and T was crossed, and she just blew them away and owned it throughout. And I think NBC freaked out too. They were like, wait, what? She can do a comedy? And that's always fun to turn them onto that too. So,
but it speaks to that. That was instinct for you because you really believed in that, bringing her in, not knowing. And then she did it. And it was like, that's an incredible moment because it's like, it substantiates something, but it also proves, what an incredible talent she is. And then the show didn't go. And then NBC put her into a development deal immediately. And then she got her other show out of that. But it's just it was a cool thing to watch of something who'd only done this one thing. And then suddenly it's like, she can do anything. So.
And there are a lot of you out there who are like that. You just haven't been given the chance. So we know that.
So I heard you say earlier that, obviously you love it when actors come in and they're prepared. And I think there is a difference between being prepared for the job on set and preparing for an audition. Yeah. And so I wonder if you could speak to us about how you can see through some of that stuff when it might not be in your body, or they might not really, you might question how they're listening or something. If you can speak to what you see in an audition in terms of preparation and what you like to see.
I mean, listening is such an important part of this. And in comedy, it's hard because there's a pace to comedy. And I find a lot of times one of the most common notes we'll give to actors is pick up your pace. But at the same time, you do have to have reactions and you do have to take certain beats. It's hard.
And I've heard that maybe Bill isn't crazy about improv with newbies. So do you need to be word perfect?
Well, this is what it is. I don't think he's, I would say, not the opposite of that, but what I would say is, and even when actors, a lot of times when they're doing a scene, they'll say, let's get it as it's written. And if you want to play on one, we can play on one. First of all, not everybody can do an improv. And so I would say in an audition situation, most times we want someone to do it as it's written. Now, because of still we're remote, there are many times when an actor will submit 2 different takes and they'll do one as it is, and then they might do one, and we'll watch those. I will say this: if you're going to do more than one take, make sure there's a difference, because there's been plenty of time when we're all conferring with notes and we'll be like, it was exactly the same 4 times. You know what I mean? Even if you're putting the emphasis on the different syllable. I mean, something that stands out that's like, okay, and like, this is take 2, and it's almost like comical. You're like, it's absolutely no different. So that's what I will say. If you're going to do, it's fine sometimes if you want to do more than one. Now, I will say this too. I'll back this up and say, it's fine if you're sending in a tape to an audition. If the audition scene is 8 pages long, probably not a great idea. But if it's a scene that's 2 pages, if it's a co-star, certainly if it's an under 5 and that kind of thing, I think it's fine to do it more than once in that regard. But certainly with a pilot or anything like that, and if you're going to producers, stick to the script because they wrote it. And you don't know. I mean, some producers might be loosey-goosey about that, but someone like an Amy Sherman-Palladino or, an Aaron Sorkin, they write a music to their stuff and they want it to be down to the and the A, all of that. So
I do think, I wouldn't say that Bill doesn't like that, for whatever that's worth. I think he does like that. And I think he does appreciate what someone will bring to it. It might be more of an on-set thing than it is an audition thing. But in regards to your audition, like what Brett was saying, if you're going to send a second one in and you want to show, your comedic take on it, maybe, put a button on it that's not there, something like that.
And I love that you said earlier that it maybe wakes you up or surprises you, or you like it when people do something different. And I think that sometimes actors struggle with, trying to find something that they think might be different because the script has a cadence or something, and you want to stay true to your intuition. So do you have any notes there too? Would that be a case where in the second take, do something to try and think of what might be different? Or...
Well, I think it's hard if your line is, here's your tea, to find that is what it is. And I think to find, if you're finding something, if you inherently can find something in that does something different for you, a lot of times what you're going to get are things that are pretty straight on the page, that are pretty, I was going to say relevant. That's not the word. Whatever the word is that I'm trying to come up with, I guess it's something like that. But so that's going to happen. But there are certain times when you might see something that you can do a little something with, and like Debbie was saying, a button is a perfect thing. That can be something as subtle as, even when you finish, it could be a look, it could be something. But I wouldn't, it doesn't mean you have to go into everything you're doing and saying, what can I do to be different? Because then I think you're in your head and you're not necessarily coming from what's organic to you. Because to be fair too, not every person is funny. Not every person is, I think anybody can work up tears in a drama and get there. I think it's harder for some people sometimes to hear the music of a comedy scene and how the rhythm of it works. And I think that comedy is just harder. I think it just is. But
I mean, I will say to you, I don't think I'm necessarily a funny person. I think Brett is hilarious. He finds so many isms to just knock out of the ballpark. The thing that people laugh with me, I hope, is when I am dead serious about something, but honest. And I just, I say it and I'm kind of taken aback because I don't mean to be funny, but they think it's funny. Comedy is a weird thing. So you have to find your lane.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So, and every person's truth is different. So bringing your truth to it.
100%.
Well put, yeah.
You said it. So a few just rapid fire questions before we have to wrap because we want to get into the work.
Terrible at these. Okay, go.
Top self-taping tips.
Oh, I know. Here we go.
Literally rapid fire questions with slow answers.
Make sure your frame is good. I don't think we really care if there's stuff behind you. I don't, just make it so that you are able to give the performance you want to give. That's the most important thing. And I don't know how many times you do it to get there, but we don't know that either. because it's all self-tape. So yeah, just make sure your frame is good so that we can see your eyes and we can see your reactions. And we actually have a role that we're going to do upcoming where there is some physical comedy to it. And so in that case, don't be afraid to pull back and do a full frame. Or if you're not sure what you should do, have your agent ask the casting office. Like, we're going to try to put that in the notes for the C-mail. But, there's all different situations.
All of that. Yeah.
That's great to know you want to see the action. Reels, separate comedy reel, drama reel, under a minute. Do you watch them? What do you like?
To be perfectly honest, I will watch a comedy reel and a drama reel if the person is like when we get their offer only and we have to if we're going to send something over to our producers to say this is a choice who won't read, we'll certainly watch it then, because there's sometimes you'll have an actor who they'll only send a drama reel and we're like, this isn't going to get it. This isn't going to do it for them. It's a disservice. So there's no reason to send it over. And then we usually call the agent back and say, do you have anything with comedy? Because either they're going to have to put themselves on tape, but they're not going to get it from this. What I find is in a pilot situation, I'll look at reels more because what we're doing now is the Scrubs reboot. And so stuff is already being sent. We haven't released, we're just starting, but there's people that I don't know because there's a lot of young interns. So those are situations where certainly I will watch a reel just because I want to be familiar with who's being submitted. So, but on a week-to-week basis, there's sometimes not always the time to watch somebody's reel when you have to get the 2-line waiter approved and on set by Friday. So,
what do you like in a slate? Simplicity, like whatever. Show us you being comfortable. I would do a wide shot, where we can see all of you, so you don't have to like pan because that's always a little weird. And just tell us your name, and then we know how to pronounce it because sometimes we mess that up. And tell us where you are.
Do you look at people's IMDb profiles and what are you looking for there?
I don't know that I would go right to IMDb and just, the only time I'll do that sometimes if I'm like sometimes trying to plump up or flesh out a list of specifically something, and I'll go in sometimes and do a search that way and see if people come up that I don't know and I explore who they are. What I do more is if I'm watching something and I see an actor on a screen, or even like last night watching, like I went to see Jesus Christ Superstar at the Hollywood Bowl, and there was a lot of those company members who I didn't know. So I'll go through the program and look them up and then go in to IMDb that way. Sometimes I'll just go into Instagram and see if they're on there too, because I find a lot of interesting people on like either TikTok or Instagram who are putting up videos and putting up content that normally would never come across my desk.
Thank you both so much for being here and sharing your expertise with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for being so warm.
Yeah.